Got something to say? Get in on the conversation at 415-915-2291. That's 415-915-CALL-1.
Welcome to Conspiracies Against Wellness with your host, Janelle Elgaway.
Good evening. Welcome to Conspiracies Against Wellness. I'm your host, Janelle Elgaway. I am so excited about our show topic and guests we will have on the next 2 weeks. We will be discussing the disease CRPS RSD, which is one of the diseases I have. I've had CRPS since around 2009, but wasn't diagnosed until 2015. I continually ask, why do the majority of doctors still not know or understand what RSD CRPS is? Or why isn't there more information, awareness, or better treatments for us? These questions and many more will be answered over the next 2 weeks. Our lineup of guests for the next 2 weeks are tonight, Barby Ingle. She is the president of iPain Foundation and has full body RSD. Barby also is a motivational speaker and best-selling author. Tomorrow, Jasmine Fuller will be on. Jasmine will share with us her recent trip to Italy where she got neurodronic infusions. I know many in the CRPS community want to know if this really works. Next Tuesday, July 18th, Dr. Philip Getson will be on. Dr. Getson is an internationally recognized expert in the diagnosis and treatment of RSD CRPS. And then Wednesday, July 19th, Sherry New will be on. Sherry is a major advocate for the CRPS community, and she will share her personal journey since CRPS RSD came into her life. If anyone has any questions for Barby tonight, please call in at 415-915-2291. We are also streaming audio and video on YouTube under the Conspiracies Against Wellness show streaming live. I believe that is. And I'd like to now welcome Barby Ingle. Thank you for joining us tonight on Conspiracies Against Wellness.
Thank you so much for having me, Janelle. I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are so happy to have you. Can you please tell me a little bit about yourself and what accomplishments you have had?
Well, prior to having chronic pain, I'll just start here. When I was 4 years old, I started doing cheerleading and dance and gymnastics, and I did that all the way through college. And I was on championship teams and received national recognitions for best all-around cheerleader and that type of thing. So most of my accomplishments were in the cheerleading world. I also was Miss Virginia 1990, so that was an accomplishment. Right out of college, I started my own cheerleading and dance training company, and then that was 1994. And then in 1995, I was hired as the head cheerleading and dance coach for Washington State University. And my teams were in the top 5, as well as I was rated one of the top 5 choreographers in the country during that time. So I really put my whole life into cheerleading and knew from the time I can remember that I was going to be a cheerleader. And then I since developing chronic pain, and that I first developed chronic pain in 1997, I have published 9 books, and I've won multiple awards. And you can go to my website, barbingle.com, and see all of the different things that I am involved with and the other accomplishments that I've had over that time. But my favorites are the 26 years of cheerleading.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've spoken before, and I'm right there with you because I was a huge athlete, and I loved playing softball and field hockey in college and everything like that. So when this hit you, and obviously this was a life-changing thing, how did you deal with that, especially because you were so active?
When I first got chronic pain, I had endometriosis, and that took a couple of years to deal with and get through the health system and figure out what to do. And when I conquered that, in 1999, I thought that I had conquered the world, and I was able to keep coaching through it. I also had blown out my knee and had to have knee surgery during that time, and came back from knee surgery. And then in 2002, when I developed RSD, my world collapsed. It was something that I had fought chronic pain before. I had fought all these things. I just thought I could fight it again, and this was so different and so life-changing, to the point of losing my job, losing my company. I was married for 10 years and lost my husband. I went from having good money to having no money, where I got food stamps for a while. I totally had to rebuild my life because I literally lost every aspect of my life.
Wow. And, it seems like this is a common thing with other CRPS people when they talk about it, depression, disability, bankruptcy, and you do lose your whole life pretty much. So in case if our listeners don't know what this is, what is CRPS RSD, and are they the same thing?
It depends on who you ask.
Okay.
Okay, so I was first diagnosed with Calzalgia. There's been over 20 names since the Civil War for this disease, and the name will change again. And the 6 doctors who created the name CRPS, Complex Regional Pain Syndrome, they intended it to be the same as RSD. If you go right now on the Mayo Clinic website, it specifically says type 1 and type 2, and it calls type 1 RSD and type 2 Calzalgia, and so they're still using RSD. Some doctors are still using RSD. For me, my most recent pain doctor, actually, when I went to see him in January, told me that I no longer, they don't call it RSD anymore. I said, yeah, I heard. And he said, so you don't have regional pain, so you don't have CRPS. What you have is CPS, Central Pain Syndrome. And so every doctor that I've run into, they'll call it Calzalgia, or they'll call it shoulder hand syndrome if they have it in their upper extremity, the mononeuropathy, polyneuropathy. Like, there's so many names for it. But with chronic regional pain syndrome and reflex sympathetic dystrophy syndrome, the name will change as the scientific community catches up with the medical community and the patient community, and it becomes a disease, which will be really good for the RSD CRPS population, because yes, we're going to go through another name change, but at the same time, it will be classified as a disease, and it will have a disease name. We know it's a neuroinflammatory disease due to studies that came out back in 2011, but that isn't even getting out to the providers and patients yet. So it takes a good 8 to 12 years for something to change in the health system, and there is more change to come.
Absolutely. So, all right, so if CRPS or RSD was first recognized during the Civil War era, why do you believe many doctors still don't know what this disease is?
Well, first off, just in chronic pain in general is only taught at about 4 universities in our country, and even in that, in our medical schools, even in that, they only receive minimal hours, 2 to 8 hours on chronic pain. So imagine that there's 8,000 diseases and conditions and syndromes, and ours is a syndrome, so it doesn't get as much attention as an actual disease because we haven't renamed it to disease yet. And because of that, doctors don't necessarily know about it. Now, I've been attending and speaking at medical conferences since 2007, and I have seen great changes in the system where the doctors that are attending these continuing education programs are receiving better, more updated information. And Dr. Getson's going to be on next week on your show. I'm excited to listen in. But he's one of the providers that goes and teaches other doctors about the condition. And so some doctors are hearing, but there's millions of patients with RSD CRPS, and there's not enough doctors that can even recognize the symptoms, let alone know what name to call it. And because there's so many different names depending on what literature you read, it's just made it a mess. And until it gets reclassified as a disease, we're all going to be struggling over the name and what is what.
Well, that makes sense now, because I honestly thought it was an autoimmune disease. And if it's not classified as a disease, maybe that's why people are having such a hard time getting disability or Social Security disability, because,
right.
yeah, and that just kind of made sense.
Yeah, in 2006, disability did classify RSD as a acceptable condition for disability. And I actually got diagnosed, I got diagnosed in 2005 and received disability in 2005. And they actually put mine through as RSD. So before it was even a mandated condition to receive disability, it has to be well documented for disability. But there is it is getting better. Mm-hmm. It just has a long way to go, and we have a lot of awareness to raise.
Absolutely. So you have an amazing...
Oh, sorry, and I also...
Oh, go ahead.
I also want to say that it's neuroautoimmune. It is neuroautoimmune, and the testing that came out in 2011, or the studies that came out in 2011, they're not widely shared or known about yet, but again, it takes 8 to 12 years to get that out into the public, so and to the providers. So it is autoimmune. We know that it's neuroautoimmune. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of getting that information out.
And I don't know if you'll feel comfortable answering this, but a guess, because you probably know more than many people. What do you think that this will be classified as? An autoimmune disease?
I think
or?
It will be a neuroinflammatory disease. Okay. And I know you're probably going to ask me, about treatments and
yeah, we'll get into that. Mm-hmm.
We'll get there.
Yep, we'll get there.
It is neuroinflammatory disease, so it will have some kind of. Eventually, it'll have a new name, and it will be classified under neuroinflammatory disease.
Okay.
Just a matter of how we get there, and I have some ideas on that too.
Well, you have an amazing foundation called the iPain Foundation. Can you please tell me a little bit about that and what it's about and why you guys created it, why your family created it?
Sure. International Pain Foundation, also known as iPain, it started in 2006, and our original name was the Power of Pain Foundation, and it was started by my dad, one of my brothers, my sister, and my husband, and they wanted a way to reach the public, because if I was having so much trouble getting a proper diagnosis and treatment and access to care, then there had to be others that were having trouble. And the first year, which was, we started November 2006, through November 2007, we only concentrated on RSD. And then we realized that there was so many conditions that were nerve pain diseases and chronic pain in general that were not being addressed, and were having the same challenges with day-to-day living and with access to care, that the board of directors decided to include all nerve pain diseases, and now we cover all chronic pain diseases, including mental and physical. So it's really had an evolution. The main 4 focus areas for the foundation are education, awareness, community support for the people in the chronic pain community, and access to care for those patients.
That's awesome. Paula Abdul is a personal friend of yours. She came out publicly a few years ago that she has RSD. Why did it take her so long for her to openly admit she has this?
Well, she actually came out with it. That's a great question, and she is a really good friend. Hi, Paula, if you're listening. Mm-hmm. She came out in 2005, and she got so much backlash from the RSD community, and not just it wasn't necessarily the patients, it was the leaders in the RSD community. This was before I joined it. Mm-hmm. But they wrote her letters, and attacked her on social media. What it is back then,
Why did they do this?
Face.
Why?
Well, she shared her story, but having done a lot of media myself, I know that a lot of times you get edited, especially in print media and TV.
Mm-hmm.
You get edited down, and so it takes out of context what you actually say.
Mm-hmm.
And so people read her interview in People magazine, and not understanding the media and how it works, they started attacking Paula, and Paula said, why should I'm not quoting her, but in general, why should I stand up for a group and be a face of something if they are going to just hate me?
Mm-hmm.
And I totally understand that. When I finally got to meet her in person, I started trying in 2009. I finally got to meet her in 2011, and we became friends. I talked to her and wrote her and told her, please come out and talk about this. And whenever I have asked her, whenever I have asked her to come out and talk about something, to do an interview or speak up or even share a tweet during November, she has done that for me. But she still gets backlash from the RSD community when she does it. And so I do protect her as much as I can. I've seen her in person. I've seen her, without all the smoke and mirrors that you get when you have the media giving you a barrier in between.
Mm-hmm.
And she does have skin discoloration, and she's on tour right now, but she actually has physical therapists on tour with her, and she's more susceptible to injuries. But she also has been in and out of remission for a few years now, and so she is doing better. And so now I don't even know if she would be the right person, because she chooses. When you have so much in life and you make your living in the spotlight and media, it's kind of difficult. I mean, the little bit of celebrity that I've gained for myself, I get a lot of hate,
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually the same gaggle of people that are producing the hate, but it wears on you. And I don't do this for a living,
Mm-hmm.
When any celebrity, not just Paula, but any celebrity is in the spotlight, it takes away from their earning potential for their job.
Right.
So, it is very difficult to have somebody at a A-list celebrity status talk about it unless they're getting out of the business like Michael J. Fox and they're only focusing on their disease.
Right. No, and that makes sense. I mean, because you're right. She has to look the part. But at the same time, how could she be the voice for, something like this disease if she's looking that way? And it's so sad, but people will question you if you do look good then. It's not an easy thing to juggle.
Me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So and so it's something that you're more likely to get somebody to be talking about your disease and helping raise awareness that doesn't have the disease.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
If it's in a celebrity status, than somebody who does have the disease, just because it's affecting their job. But if you get, for instance, Krista, who was the daughter on Dr. Ken, she's a lupus ambassador. She does not have lupus. She knows people with lupus,
Mm-hmm.
but she puts her face and her name out there, and she goes and does public appearances for lupus to raise awareness. Mm-hmm. And so it's easier to get somebody to do something like that than it is to expect a celebrity to put their personal health. It's hard enough if you are a nobody to put your personal health on blast,
Right.
especially with our social media population, with how people have that screen to hide behind when they do attack you. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely something that we do work with a lot of celebrities, and Paula is a iPain iPain delegate, celebrity delegate for the International Pain Foundation. and she chose to work with us. She also works with other lupus organizations and other disease organizations as well as a person who raises awareness for different things. But it isn't a one disease type of thing.
Right.
And she has multiple issues going on herself. So, it's really, I can't fault any celebrity for not speaking up and putting out their business.
No, absolutely. And, I find too, usually somebody that has RSD or CRPS, they don't just have that. They have other things, so it's not ever just one thing.
Right. Exactly.
What is the best way to deal with CRPS or RSD, and what are the best treatments currently for it?
Oh, goodness. Every single patient is different, so I can't say, this is the treatment to do and it will cure you, because I know people that have gone into remission from different types of treatment. What I have found that all of us that have gone into remission have in common is that we've done multimodality approach.
Okay.
So there isn't really one. I can tell you the things that have put me into remission and helped me manage my RSD and other chronic pain diseases. And it's not that I'm endorsing these types of treatments. Every single patient needs to look up and see what they feel most comfortable trying. But when I hear from patients that say, I've tried everything and I'm never going to get remission, well, then I give them a list of over 100 things that they could try. And they go, oh, I thought I tried everything, but I didn't. It just feels like you have. Or your doctor says, that's all I can offer you. And you don't realize that there's other providers out there that offer other treatments, or doctors that offer the same treatments but with different protocols that could help you more than another.
Right.
So me, my treatments that have helped me, ketamine infusions got me from wheels to walking. An oral orthotic got me from walking to heels. So I've gone from wheels to heels. Although I still do have trouble with shoes that confine my foot. It makes me want to vomit. It triggers a pain reflex in me that makes me want to vomit. So I do have to be careful on even the type of shoe I wear. Most of the time, I don't have any shoes, and when I do, it's typically a flip-flop. And I actually have a note from a doctor saying that due to a medical condition that I need to wear flip-flops, because a lot of times I'm on set somewhere and they require closed-toed shoes, and I'm able to show my note from my doctor so I can keep my flip-flops.
Have you ever gone into remission? Oh, sorry.
Do what?
Oh, I was just wondering, have you ever gone into remission?
Yes. I first went into remission in December 2009, and I've been in and out of remission ever since.
Wow. How did you achieve that? Through these different modalities that you were speaking about?
The first one, the one that was first for me that helped was ketamine, although I do wonder if I got an oral orthotic first, if it would have done the same thing, because both lower neuroinflammation, and that's the key to controlling RSD. So, along with exercise, which I want to clarify what I mean by exercise, and diet, a low inflammatory diet, is also helpful. Now, with exercise, a lot of people, especially me and you, coming from an athletic background, we hear exercise and we're like, are you nuts? When I first went into remission, Dr. Schwartzman, who's now retired, who was a colleague with Dr. Getson, he said, now, Barbie, you have to be very careful because we've only tricked your body into being good. You're in remission. This is not a cure. And you have to avoid injury. Anything that you do, like if you go and try to lift a bunch of weights, it could be perceived as an injury or an insult to the body, which can trigger the RSD to come out of remission. And he said, so don't run out and go hang gliding or anything spectacular or anything. He said, let your activities of daily living be your exercise. Let that each day you'll find that you can do more and more, and that will be your exercise. And then this year I started actually adding walking into my exercise. So I do aquatherapy in the pool, but I started walking on the ground, and most days I can walk, as long as I'm in remission. I can walk 3,000 to 5,000 steps in a day.
What is remission? What is remission to you? What does that feel like?
Great question. That's the thing. A lot of people think remission is a cure, and you get your life back, and you move on. But remission for me means that I have better quality of life, a better daily living. My pain levels are typically 0 to 4 on a daily basis while I'm in remission. And storms do affect me. That's typically when they go up to a 4. I still have to be cautious and careful in my life and in my daily living. But I can live more. That's what remission is for me, is that I'm living better daily.
Yeah, I've experienced it now twice myself, and it's the same thing for me. Yeah, so I completely understand that. You mentioned earlier CRPS 1 and CRPS 2. What are those? What's the difference between them?
Depends on who you ask. But typically what providers believe typically is that type 1 occurs after an illness or an injury that didn't cause direct damage to the nerves in the affected limb or limbs. And type 2 is no distinct nerve injury. But really, the treatment for both are the same. So it really doesn't matter how you get it. Like, if you get the flu, does it matter that you picked it up in the elevator or you picked it up in the grocery store? You got the flu.
Right.
It really doesn't matter. And, it could be the inciting injury or insult to the body could be something so minor as a paper cut or a needle poke or, so minor that you don't even remember it, or it's so, like, out of any realm that we're taught growing up,
right?
Which I think we need to start awareness and education as children with how to navigate the health system and preventative care. We don't do a good job at that in America, but I think that in my opinion, it doesn't matter if you have type 1 or type 2. That's just how you got it. It's a matter of now how are you going to put it into remission? While we wait for a cure, how are you going to live the best life that you can? And that's what matters the most to me.
Is it true if newly diagnosed with CRPS RSD, it can be reversed? And if so, how?
Reverse? It depends on your definition. I would say it's easier to go into remission. And with children, different tips and techniques and treatment modalities work than with full-grown nervous systems in adults. So that's typically why they say that. But I know people that have gotten RSD, and within a month it's already spread out of their initial injury location,
right.
and within a few months it's full body. Where I also know other people that have had it 20 years and it's still in just their pinky.
Wow.
Or just their hand.
So when I first found out about this, I read a bunch of stuff, and what I read was if I caught it in the first 6 months to a year, doctors would have been able to reverse it. That's, I guess, what I was trying to understand.
Right. In reverse remission,
Oh, okay. All right.
I think it's just it's potato. But reverse, I mean, if you go under the assumption that it's autoimmune, neuroautoimmune, that I do based on the studies that I've read and the research doctors that I've spoken to around the world, I would say that it's in our blood. And it's activating our glia, and it's activating it's affecting our different systems of the body and our immune system and everything. So just because you put it into remission, it's still in you. It's just a matter of, did you wake it up?
Right.
Can you put it to sleep so it doesn't come back, or can you live the rest of your life where your body doesn't see it as a trauma or insult when something happens to you, that it doesn't trigger the autoantigens, autoantibodies to attack again.
Is it genetic?
Basically, that's up for debate. I can tell you, in my family, my blood brother has it. My stepsister, who's not blood related, had it. She passed away.
Sorry.
But it can run in families, but I don't know if that's environmental or genetic. There is some studies being done to help figure that out. But I mean, looking at my family, I would say that 5 kids grew up in the same environment. 3 of us had RSD, or have RSD. One's dead. So
I'm so sorry.
The 4th one has an autoimmune disease of unknown type at this point, and the 5th one is fine, but he spent the least time in the house. So, things like, we used to chase after the mosquito man running through the neighborhood. I lived in Virginia, and we had this mosquito truck that would come through throughout the summer, and then sometimes in the fall and spring, and spray for mosquitoes. And other parents would be like, "Come inside." And we were kind of latchkey kids. My mom had multiple jobs, and so we were out, and we would chase down the mosquito man, and we would ride our bikes right behind him while he's pushing out these chemicals. Could that have been something that brought it to us? Possibly. We also all were bitten by ticks. Could it be something that got into our blood from a tick or some other insect or type of environmental exposure? Well, we're all in the same family and we have similar exposures, so it really is up for debate.
Are you aware of if anybody that you grew up with outside of your family, if they have this?
Actually, there is some friends that I have that I went to high school and college with that also have it. Yes.
Really? So it could be
Yes.
environmental.
So it very well could be environmental.
Is it easy to find information on this disease or whatever this is, and on how to deal with it?
It's easy to find information. It's not easy to find the most latest, greatest information. And the example I'll give is people are still using this McGill pain scale and saying that RSD is 46 out of 50 on the McGill pain scale, or 42 out of 50, depending on which one you look at. But that pain scale with RSD, which actually said causalgia on it, actually came out in the 70s, and they revised the pain scale over the years, and it no longer includes chronic diseases. It has acute diseases on it, like broken bone or pregnancy. So it is no longer on the McGill pain scale, but people still propagate that information and use it as a fact or tool to try to help raise awareness. Yet, if a reporter or media tries to go and look something up, it's from the 70s. They're going to look up the newest McGill pain scale, and it's not on there.
Right.
So we have to be really careful about what sources we're using, and the latest, newest information is not out in most sites.
Barbie, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Great.
Hey, Sam. Say, I just heard about something that might really change your life. What do I mean? Well, you said your mom was having some medical issues, didn't you? And didn't one of your daughter's friends get approached by a stranger in the park last week? Yeah, I remember. Well, you've got to see this new technology. It's a wearable device, kind of like a Fitbit, but this one has wellness monitoring and a safety panic button, among other things. No, I'm not kidding. Look, you can only get this from a sponsor. Check out www.conspiraciesagainstwellness.com and look for David and Dana. They'll take good care of you. Got something to say? Get in on the conversation at 415-915-2291. That's 415-915-CALL-1.
Welcome back, Call Nation. If you have a question or comment for Barbie, please call in at 415-915-2291. We actually have a call. We are going to take a call from area code 678. What's your name and where are you from, caller? Hello? Barbie, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Brian, did you put it through? Okay. Caller from area code 678, are you there? Hello. Okay. Well, I guess they're not here right now. Barbie, you mentioned the Miguel pain scale, and honestly, I still thought this was all true. Actually, everybody I know pretty much in the community always uses this scale. So honestly, I'm shocked. I mean, it makes sense.
Makes me nuts.
Yeah, I can understand. Is there a place right now that we can go to that has the correct information? I mean, does iPain Foundation have any of this anywhere on their websites, or do you know of anywhere else people could look?
We do have a page on our website, internationalpain.org, under the conditions tab. We have a plethora of conditions listed. It is one of the conditions that we do have listed. We don't have on there, the McGill pain scale is old. But we don't use it in our literature and the things that we put out because we just found it irresponsible to do that. But I also don't necessarily go around and correct it every time I see it. It just drives me personally nuts.
Right. Well, and I didn't even know this wasn't a disease or thought of as a disease. I thought it was. So.
Well, it's in the name, syndrome.
Right.
A syndrome is a collection of symptoms, and it's harder to get insurance to cover treatments, to have it recognized, to get it talked about in medical schools, and so on and so forth. And until we work together to get it reclassified as a disease, it's not. I mean, it's coming down the pipeline, but it could be faster if we got patient involvement to speak up and speak out to have it classified as a disease.
Okay. I recently saw you on your local news station standing up for RSD and chronic pain patients concerning opiates. Why are chronic pain patients being targeted?
Wait, are they being targeted?
Yeah, and what's the real issue going on with all this? Can you explain it a little bit? Because I know there's so many people that have been recently just dropped suddenly off their meds, or they just don't understand this and they're afraid.
This goes right into your title of your show, Conspiracies Against Wellness. The people that have the lobbying money are the people who are supporting addiction behavior, not supporting the behavior, but supporting the awareness and the treatments and so forth on it. And the federal funding is put out for these addiction people. Yet there's millions of people more that are dealing with chronic pain diseases, including RSD, that are being forsaken and our lives are being passed up. It all comes down to financial. It comes down to branding, marketing, the millions of dollars in funding, the lobbying on the other side of the fence. And it's not really even another side. Yes, we need to take care of the problems that our country has with people who are abusing medications and abusing heroin and other illicit drugs. At the same time, recognize that it isn't all opiates. That we have a problem with fentanyl, we have a problem with heroin, but all of that gets lumped in together in the statistics, and even the CDC statistics are very low rated with how they come up with the CDC guidelines, and the statistics that they used for them were skewed and geared towards the abuse community versus the pain community, and they didn't think that it would be such, according to the CDC leaders, they didn't think it would have the impact that it has. Our DEA agent here was who was part of the same TV show you saw me on. He Doug Coleman. He actually said that we're collateral damage. I can't believe that a DEA leader went on TV and said that chronic pain patients are collateral damage. Who should be mad at abusers, not mad at the system? Well, the abusers aren't hurting us or affecting us. They're hurting their own families because they lose somebody and then they're sad and there's this emotion around it. But to be mad, I'm mad at the system because there has been a table that the chronic pain community has not been invited to. We want to be at the big table at Thanksgiving dinner, and we want to be able to help people who abuse medications as well as make sure that all patients, especially chronic pain patients, get the proper and timely access to care that we also deserve and require for better life and better daily living. And chronic pain patients want to, on more than average, want to get their lives back. And if you ask a chronic pain patient if they want the life back that they had prior to developing whatever disease that they have, majority of them will say, yes, if I could go back and not have this pain, I would be happily go back to working full time and doing the job that I was doing or something else in that field. And that right is being taken away from millions to spare the feelings of the thousands that we're losing, the families of the thousands that we're losing to opioid or illicit drug abuse. And most of that is illicit drug abuse.
We're going to take a quick call. No, and I have actually a few more questions. I just wanted to get this call quickly. Caller from area code 678, or Sherry. Sherry, where are you from, Sherry? Hi, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm good. Where are you from and what's your question?
I'm from Raleigh, and I just want to say I'm very impressed with our speaker. She's obviously very intelligent. I want to ask her one thing. How in the world does she get to all these conferences and is able to speak at them while she's enduring so much pain?
Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you for calling in and asking this question. It's a great question. And when I first started going to the conferences, I was undergoing radio frequency ablations and nerve blocks every 4 to 6 weeks. I was in a wheelchair, and I was only going to a couple a year. My first one was in 2007. I didn't get into remission until 2009, and I didn't become part of the iPain board of directors until 2010 when I was doing better. How I get to the conferences, most of them I've paid my own way out of my own money, or my parents paid my way, and both of them have passed now, so I don't have that option anymore. And over time, I've also been asked to come and speak to the participants at the conferences, and a few of the conferences have paid my way to come and educate the providers. So
I don't even mean financially. I mean physically.
Physically, okay.
You're enduring so much pain.
If I know that I have a conference on Saturday, I spend most of the week in bed, especially prior to remission. Spent most of the week in bed or weeks in bed, and then I would go and do that one event. As soon as it's over, the colleagues and other participants would go out for dinner and drinking and everything else, and I would go back to my hotel room and then when I get home, it takes days, sometimes weeks to recover from that experience. Now coming in and out of remission, I do better, but I still, even now, have to take days before and after, sometimes longer, to recover and prepare for those physically as well.
It takes me a few days to recover, even just going 3 hours away. I never consider myself lucky, but I guess I am, because I acquired this wonderful thing that used to be called RSD after abdominal surgery in 1999. And I woke up literally feeling like I had samurai swords stabbing my right leg and right inner leg down the ilioinguinal canal where your hip joins your leg. And they just had to keep me sedated with pain shots. And finally they let me out after 8 days, and the doctor really didn't know what to do, and he sent me to PT, and they didn't know what to do, and they got me in the pain clinic. And I live very close to University of North Carolina Hospital, Chapel Hill, and Duke University Medicine Hospital. in medical school, excuse me. And I was amazed that they sent me to the pain clinic, and first thing the anesthesiologist said is, well, it's probably due to, they just probably held the retractor machine back too far, and your nerve got, inflamed, and we'll just give you this nerve shot in the most painful place there is, and you'll be fine, this nerve block. And I had a series of 5 nerve blocks over 5 months, and then they said, you know what, we don't think we can help you. Maybe you should see a neurologist. So it was actually the neurologist that I found most helpful, because she diagnosed it. However, this one just wanted to give me medication and tell me, that's all we can do the rest of your life. Just call me when you need a refill, So I went to another one, and we tried all different kinds of things. But I was lucky that I did get disability in 2000, amazingly, but it took 3 times. And I remember going in to see the judge, and there was an SSA person there and an occupational therapist, and he said, well, I've read over your file, and he asked me 2 questions, and he just looked at them in disgust, and he slammed his gavel down, and he said, she's approved, and walked out.
Awesome.
So I think if you get lucky with a judge and they really see how much is documented and how much, it's just like right now I have trouble stumbling over my words or saying the correct words sometimes.
I do too. I do too.
That's the common thing, I think, too. But
one of the good things is you just shared your story, and you had a really good use of adjectives, and that is so important when you're describing your pain, to say samurai swords is what I was feeling. Like, those types of things are really important, and then documentation is extremely important if you want to get approved for disability. Every state is different. Some states are easier than others. I actually had Senator McCain get involved in my case, and I was approved on my first try without having to go into court. But I did have to go through a lot of IMEs and physical and mental IMEs and such. So it really, is case by case and state by state. But the best thing you can do is document and use your adjectives.
Right, and I did have a lot of documentation and recommendation from the second neurologist I saw, who had tried all these other treatments. Plus, I was on so much medication, I could barely talk, much less walk. And I've also found that orthopedists seem to know a lot about it. It's funny, I tore the...
Yeah, and I think that's also the thing. I have a pain care team with multiple different types of providers on it, but I've noticed that different states, different types of specialists are better for that disease. And for instance, Dr. Getson, who I consider one of the world's leading experts on RSD, the best in the United States by far, he's a primary care physician. So it really just depends on, has the doctor studied the disease? And a lot of the treatment options, doctors can offer them, like infusion therapy or the blocks or spinal cord stimulator or whatever they offer you. But anybody could hook you up to an IV and give you an infusion, but does the doctor know why they're doing a protocol and how to do that protocol? And finding the doctors that do know that is very difficult, which is why, when people say, where should I go? Well, if you can, you go to Dr. Getson.
Sherry, thank you so much for your call.
But I just wanted to also say that, like Janelle, I've heard over and over that, and read over and over that RSD-CRPS is number 1 on the pain scale, that it's more painful than cancer or limb removal or amputation or natural childbirth, and I went through that, so I can attest it is more painful than that. But that's interesting what you say.
I know Barby shocked me tonight. I had no clue.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So I think it's just really important.
That it's called the suicide disease because it is
Right. We were going to talk about that in a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Sherry,
I commend you for your activism. And do you also work with the U.S. Pain Foundation?
You mean Barbie?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, because I have got some useful information from them and some useful handouts that I've actually given to my doctors
We will be actually having a guest on, I don't know, in a few weeks that's high up in U.S. Pain Foundation. So you'll be able to hear from her a little bit. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sherry.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And is it okay if we take another call, Barbie? We have people kind of calling in a lot now. Is that cool with you?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure, that's fine.
Okay. Brian, ready? Okay. Caller from area code 860. Are you there?
I'm here.
Hi.
Yeah.
What's your name and where are you from?
Hi, my name is Tina. I'm from Connecticut.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, Jonelle. Hi, Bobby. I wanted to ask Bobby a question. She mentioned ketamine that's used in the beginning. I have CRPS because of I got two torn rotator cuffs, and then I got a brachial plexus injury. And so I'm just curious, like she had mentioned ketamine, she may not have needed ketamine if she would have done, was it the multipliance that she thinks that would, Bobby, that you think would have helped you if you would have got the multipliance first?
It's called an oral orthotic, and it's a device that goes in your mouth, and it helps lower brainstem inflammation. It's just now hitting medical books, and I've had mine since 2012. It lowers neuroinflammation by up to 70%, as documented in the studies that have been done on it at University of New Mexico as well as UCLA. And they actually used myself and my brother as case studies in the research, and also in their presentations that the doctors that were involved now go out and talk about. But it does lower neuroinflammation, which is one of the main problems with RSD in getting the symptoms under control. So you can go to tmjconnection.com and find out more information on that.
You need to have TMJ first to obviously to have this appliance needed,
No.
right?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Have a
And then the second
neuroinflammation
question would be-
issue. You need to have a neuroinflammation. Neuroinflammation.
Oh, okay. Okay. And the other question would be, so you only did the ketamine in the beginning, and then you get the appliance, which helped you so much.
No, I didn't. That's not, no. From 2002 to 2009, I tried physical therapy. I had my first rib removed to help make way for the blood flow and diseases. I had 37 nerve blocks, 36 radio frequency ablations, occupational therapy, $30,000 in physical therapy. Goodness, I've tried. I have full body involvement. I've tried so many different treatments. So yeah, and please, that's what got me into remission. But that's not the first treatment that I tried. I did a lot of things prior to that. I've even tried Calmere and energy healing. I've tried many different things.
It seems like we all become our own test dummies.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like a lab rat.
Seriously.
Now, if you don't want to try the radical treatment, say you're afraid of things like ketamine, like I'm kind of nervous about ketamine and things that are I'm just afraid of some of these treatments that are really strong treatments.
Right.
If you had to say what medications that are MVA blockers that a doctor could give you orally, were there any specific ones that you feel that you have used that have helped you the most?
Well, no. I've been on a lot of different.
Okay.
I've been on a lot of different medications, but specifically to lower neuroinflammation, no. Besides ketamine, nothing else had done that for me. Now, I'm not saying that medications don't help. I know patients that take opiates, and although opiates activate neuroinflammation through the glia, they also make you not care as much, and their insurance will cover that. And they've tried other treatment options, and opiates is the only option that they have that is helping, that they have access to, that is helping them. So that's one of the reasons why I fight hard. Although I don't take opiates on a daily basis myself, I have in the past. I know that some people only have access to an opiate, and therefore that is their lifeline. And so every single patient is going to be different, and you have to find what works best for you. And also, I would say don't just get stuck in one treatment modality. Even now, going in and out of remission, I still am open to trying new things. I've done stem cell therapy, infusions. I've done many different things, Calmere, different things to try and see if this could add to my relief or if this could help me more than what I'm already receiving. So you have to be, like you said, you're not comfortable with some treatments, don't do them. You need to be comfortable with whatever treatments that you do try. Now, I have personal beliefs on what works for me based on what I've done and tried over the years, but I have tried a laundry list of different treatment options.
Well, and
thank you so much for your question.
another important thing I think that is that we have to do is each person, we all have to do what we can that we can't, like that we have within our grasp, that we have control over, like our diet, anti-inflammatory diet, antioxidants, exercise. And as Barbie said earlier, not the exercise you think that's, you're going to go all gung-ho out and go crazy. It's just moving, and you kind of build your way up. Your mentality is so, your minds are so powerful. They've done so many studies that, if you actually think and believe something, it oftentimes, like your body will physically manifest it, and mentally you become that. I know for me, those are some of the changes I've made in the last year and a half, and that's how I've been able to get into remission or have the quality of life I have now. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Can I ask one last question before I get off?
Sure.
When you use the ketamine, right, and it starts to wear off, when your symptoms come back, do they come back worse than they did before you used the ketamine? Because I hear that a lot. That's what people say. They use the ketamine.
Right, it's perception. I remember, I don't know how long you've had it, but if I could have what I thought was a level 10 pain back in 2002 back, I would take that pain back, because that was a level 10 at that time. And then doctors would say, do this and you'll get better, and I would get worse, and I'd have a new understanding of what a level 10 was. So, it really is subjective, and it's when you have, I find that when I have relief and then all of a sudden I come out of remission, that I'm like, oh my God, I don't remember this pain. But it really is a matter of perception, and it's a psychological thing that we experience. So some people interpret that as a new higher pain level.
Well, and also I've had 5 ketamine infusions, and each time I've had it, it hit me differently. There's been 2 times that it barely worked at all, and then there's been another time that it worked really, really well. So I think it's how you prepare for it sometimes, because
I think it is prepare for it.
Yep.
It depends on what brand of ketamine they use. There's multiple types of ketamine. Some have on a technical level, but layman terms, a right hook and a left hook. If on the actual compound. So if you have the mirrored ketamine, it might not work for you as well. So it also depends on the protocol. It depends on the type of ketamine that the provider's using. It depends on the mental state you go into it with, the mental state you come out of it with. There's so many factors to it that you have to make it the best for you. And sometimes that takes things providers.
So once you started, do you feel like you always, like once people start it, it's almost like they're going to always have to go to it, because once they use it,
No.
the level goes down?
No, not at all.
I get it now. Okay. I get it now just when I injure myself, but it's approximately 1 to 2 times a year I get a booster, which I'm on 0 opiates. I have an oral orthotic, and besides that, the only other treatment is the ketamine 1 to 2 times a year for 2 days each time.
No drugs?
No drugs.
No drugs at all that you take? Wow.
No
drugs.
No, but see, you have to understand how ketamine works. Ketamine works on your glia in your spine and brain, which regulates neuroinflammation. If you are on a opiate and you're taking ketamine at the same time,
It won't work.
Opiates work on that exact same glia. So opiates knock the ketamine off the glia. So if you're taking opiates and ketamine, you're not going to get the same benefit. And same thing with benzodiazepines can also do something similar. But Dr. Getzing can talk about this. But some doctors allow you to stay on medications. Dr. Schwartzen made me get off of my pain medication before he gave me ketamine because he wanted me to have the best possible outcome, and I wanted the best possible outcome. And yes, it was very difficult. It was extremely hard. I thought there was days I thought I was going to die, and my husband was going to come home and find me.
I did the same thing, Barbie. Yeah, each 5 times I'd done it, I weaned myself off, help with the doctor, and I mean, you had to be off for a good, 5 to 7 days. They'd like you to be off of it. I think the only opiate they'd let you be on was Nucenta, which I don't know much about, but yeah. I've had friends that have stayed on their opiates. They didn't tell their doctor, and nothing happened for them. So.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work longer. It doesn't work for a longer period. It doesn't work at all.
Well, I
hear varying things. The only thing I don't hear from people who are on ketamine and opiates at the same time is that it works.
Right. Yeah. Well, because they attach to the same nerve receptors. So if you have an opiate already on it, nothing else. The ketamine can't attach.
The opiate knocks the ketamine off. So
right. Right.
I'm talking like layman terms here. It's not specific at all. And I'm not a provider. I just have talked to a lot of research doctors in this particular field and done a lot of studying over the years.
Right.
And I have presented at provider conferences and patient conferences. And doctors have received clock hours for listening to me talk, but I am not a doctor myself. So please talk this over with your own providers. Please don't take anything I say as this is the thing to do, because I'm not saying this is the thing to do. I'm saying find what's best for you.
Right. This is what worked for you.
Right.
Tina,
thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tina, for calling in.
Answering my question.
Thanks, Tina.
So, Barbie, tomorrow we have Jasmine Fuller on as a guest to talk about our trip to Italy to get the Neradronate, I don't know how to say it, infusions. How do you say it? Neradronate. Thank you. I'll probably ask again. I saw your several blogs in 2012 on this drug. What do you think about this drug?
I think that it has a lot. I'm going to give full disclosure.
Please.
The maker of it recently had me and Ken come out to New York and paid for our way to come and talk about patient advocacy. So we did talk, I think, one sentence that the medication came up, like literally, it was brief, but just want to say the maker of it did have us come and talk about advocacy with some other patient leaders.
Wow.
So I wanted to have that out on the table. And I can't remember, Grunthal had me come out and talk about it. But I think it's a lot of marketing, and I think that if you go, you can go and read my blog for more detailed opinion. But it's basically Neradronate is a biophosphate, and it is already available here in the United States. So for me, getting on a plane and traveling to Italy isn't worth it. It's here in the United States. If you want to specifically get this brand name that they are marketing, you can do that here in the United States. It's under clinical trials. I don't believe in any clinical trial in general. I believe we need clinical trials. I don't believe that any medication should be pushed through the FDA trial process at a faster pace. And I have seen some out there saying, hey, help us get this pushed through quicker than doing all the studies and everything. And it like 2,000 to 3,000 medication options or ideas are on the table to get one new medication to market. So I do understand the process and bringing it to market and why they would want to skip the line a little bit. But I don't believe in any clinical trial that we should ever skip the line. I think the clinical trial process is set up by the FDA for a reason, and I think that any trial that you do, whether it's this medication or the generic active ingredient biophosphonate, you need to look it up at the FDA website and read about what the FDA is saying about it, and realize that the active ingredient, what it is and what it does. Right.
Well, and we spoke 2 years ago because I got accepted into this, and I was excited about it, and then honestly, I got upset when you told me like what you thought about this, and I was just like, oh. And then I read your blogs, But you were right. I think it is to market, because they market it as a cure. And all I wanted to do.
It's not a cure.
No, it isn't. A cure is all symptoms gone. It's never there again, and it's just gone, right? That's what a cure to me is, right? So I was really upset when I started finding, because they don't send you the information of what.
I said just my opinion,
Right.
and look it up yourself. And I have not had a patient. Well, first off, I've had providers that are leading the research.
Mm-hmm.
I can't use names, but I've had providers say to me, Barbie, I know this drug doesn't work. I know that XYZ works better,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually named X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a clinical trial, and I want to make the money off the clinical trial.
Yeah.
As a person who is conducting the trial. So they knew that it wasn't going to work. They told the company that they were working for that it wasn't going to work, and they still allowed they still provided the clinical trial. And we need clinical trials. We need new options. Not every treatment is right for every person, so we need to find new things.
Right.
I just think it needs to be transparent. And I haven't met a patient, and I started hearing from patients back in 2012 that were part of the original 2012 trial in stage 1 of the trial at University of San Diego or San Diego University. I don't remember which way it goes, but that their data was not included in the final.
Really?
Because they didn't make it in. Because if they weren't successful in any way,
they didn't want it out.
They didn't want that data, so they kicked you out of the trial, or the patient chose to quit the trial, and they didn't have to include that data in any clinical trial. And remember, people, in any clinical trial, if you don't finish the trial, your data is not included. So all they have to do to skew a trial
Let's cut you short.
Kick the people out
Yeah.
that aren't doing so well.
That's such
And
that.
that's not ethical.
No.
It is out there. It is happening. And so make sure if you get into a clinical trial that you are in a reputable trial, that you are fully engaged, fully participant, and know all of the possible outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Check the FDA site. That's the best place to go.
Yes, and research. Research. Everybody needs to research, not just take the Italy. What people? It is frustrating. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. No, it was so frustrating. I'll be honest with you. I'll be transparent in this sense. And, I'm not putting down if somebody's going to go to it or did that or whatever. I feel like maybe I was being preyed on, or anybody that is looking at going to Italy to do this, because a lot of us don't have money. So I know people that they had their parents take out a second mortgage for them so they could go over there and do that. And then they came back and nothing was different. And that is just so sad, and actually, you actually helped me change my mind, because I did a lot of research for months on this to see if I wanted to do it. I was depressed for a while because I thought, this is finally the one, this is the thing that is going to change my life. But the thing is I feel like when something's too good to be true, it really is. And, it's not going to be one thing that's going to change this. There is no cure for this. None,
Not yet.
We could go into remission.
There will be
Yes.
There's reason for, and there will be a cure, but there is no cure yet
Not yet
on Earth that we have evidence of.
Absolutely. And you're right. I mean, humans can do a lot of amazing things, so I do believe it is out there.
Yes, I know it's there. I know that it is. I know that if we could get past the lobbyists and past I have a lab that can do the RSD blood test here in the United States, and if I could raise $550,000, I could get the RSD blood test here in the United States, just like the fibromyalgia test. But I have gone to the funders that I know that have funded other things, and they won't fund it.
Right.
And there's conspiracies against wellness. There's so many reasons why, but it hurts their
because they won't make money. You know what I mean? They'll lose money.
Right. It hurts their bottom line down the road, today and down the road, by billions of dollars. And so they don't want to help put the money out for such a test. And other countries, it is available. Here, it's not yet. And And, I still work to find that money. There's going to be someone somewhere someday that has $550,000.
Well, Dr. Getson was saying the same exact thing. He was saying, if we could just get funding, if we could get some people to stand up for it, and you were even...
Is getting the funding to bring the cure to market, getting the funding to bring the testing here. I mean, right now, the best testing for RSD to tell you if you have it or not is thermogram testing. And there's very few places in the country that provide it. But Dr. Getson is one of those places.
Well, and this has been around since Civil War era. Why is there not even a test to be able to, a real conclusive test?
It all comes down to funding, marketing, lobbyists, the people at the big seats, at the big table that exclude us on purpose.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
I agree.
And that's how they continue to make more money, and we don't get the things that we need as patients.
So what can we do? Oh, okay, so I remember in the beginning of all this, you mentioned it's important that every person that has this, that we have to kind of unite and come together. What can we do? What power does somebody like myself?
Unite, I don't mean all need to believe the exact same thing.
Right.
The exact same thing. There's 7 billion people on Earth. We all have a different way of expressing ourselves, of sharing our stories, of choosing which adjectives to use. I say it feels like someone put lighter fluid on me and caught me on fire. Our earlier caller, Sherry, said that hers is like samurai swords slicing through her. Using your adjectives, it doesn't have to be exactly identical, but you need to be doing what you can to raise awareness, to get legislative action such as proclamations and bills that help protect access to care for RC patients as well as the chronic care community as a whole. Meeting with your legislators, not just when a bill hits the table, but prior to a bill even hitting the table, if you can call, or especially if you can go in person and set up an in-person meeting with them and talk to them, and so that when they are at the table and it's time to vote, they can remember your face, and you planted a seed, and by the time they go to vote, it's a tree. And they're like, I'm not going to let Janelle down, and I'm not going to let Sherry down, or Tina down, or Barbie down.
Well, what if
down.
has this ever been done? Like somebody puts a whole bunch of us together. We'll take a bus and go there, and we'll just walk in one by one and say something. Could we? That's happened.
Yes, we do that. Many organizations do that.
Okay.
Whether it's going to Washington D.C. and visiting them, or even in your own hometown. If you belong to the X county, if you go into the Y county and start preaching, the Y county person knows you can't vote for them anyway, so they don't care. They need people from their own county to go in.
Okay.
And even one person going in your own county, talking to your representative, that plants a seed, and they remember that when they're up in front of a legislative board and they're about to vote on a bill, and the insurance lobbyists are on one side and saying, we don't want this bill, mandates, in their little whiny cry voices, and they remember, well, Janelle came and sat in my office, and I remember her vividly describing what a day is like for her. And they remember that, and then they vote for access to care for the patients. But if you don't go even into your own hometown county legislators' offices, your state senators' offices, if you can't get out of bed, which I've been there, pick up the phone and make a call, send an email. You don't even have, if you're up at 2 a.m., you can call their office and leave a voicemail and say, hi, I'm Susie Q, and I have RSD, and this is what it does to me, and this bill is coming up for vote, and I would appreciate it if you vote for this because this is what my life is like. And you give them a 3-minute elevator speech on their email, and it's 2 a.m. because that's when you're awake because you had pain insomnia. That can make a difference. That can make a change.
That's great advice. So earlier, I think it was Sherry. She mentioned that this is called the suicide disease. Is it still called that? Because I don't know anymore now. And why is it?
There is so many diseases that are called the suicide disease.
I didn't.
The first one I actually saw was trigeminal neuralgia. But as a patient, you can, if it brings you to the point of do I want to be alive or dead? It's a suicide disease. And so RSD is not just the suicide disease. It's one of many suicide diseases. And unfortunately, I have lost many friends to suicide, and I have helped many friends who attempted suicide and survived get their life back together and back on track. So it is something that we do face in our community. Suicide prevalence is high, but it is for many nerve pain diseases, unfortunately.
I'm learning so much, by the way. I thought I knew a lot, but obviously I don't. So
I could talk for hours here. So
it's great.
I would love to come back on another episode and talk more in depth on any direction you want to go.
Okay, great. Well, then I don't know how much time you do have left. Quick. So, what suggestions can you give to caretakers that are dealing with someone with CRPS RSD?
Okay, the quick rundown. I would set the expectation and understand, and by set the expectation, I mean let people know, hey, we're coming to your birthday party, but we only may be able to stay a few minutes. It depends on how Barbie's doing, how long we're going to be able to stay. But this is so important to us, we're going to make it for 5 or 10 minutes. And then if you stay longer, boom, you're in for the win. Understanding and providing empathy to the patient, having patience with the patient, learning about RSD, and not ever doubting the patient and not ever doubting the patient. And my sixth one would be making a safe space for the patient. For instance, in our house, we have blackout curtains in every single room, and most of the days, due to because I have more than RSD, I have other conditions as well, including epilepsy and microlepsy. We keep the lights low, we keep the sounds low, and try to keep order as much as possible in the house so that I have better daily living. That's good information. What upcoming events does iPain Foundation have to raise awareness, and how can our listeners get involved? That's a great question. If you go to internationalpain.org, we have a list under projects, under patient awareness, and under resources. So there's 3 different areas to find our project, our projects and things that we do. But right now we have our Hero of Hope Awards going on. We also have, we're preparing for November, which is in November. And we have our Music News Awareness Project. We have our iPain Pop Project. We have monthly webinars. We have our iPain Living Magazine. We have Insurance Insurgents. We have a National Pain Strategy group that we work on the National Pain Strategy and helping raise awareness for that. We also do a lot with legislation work. We have an advocacy committee that does many different things in that aspect. We also have our calendar of events, so you can see anything that we have coming up, and all of our meetings are open. So if you are thinking about becoming an iPain delegate, you can sign up for our iPain delegate program on our website under the About Us tab. But if you're just interested in what we have to offer to the public, to the pain community, or any of our committee meetings, you're welcome to join us for any of those. You don't have to be an iPain delegate to serve on a committee and help out with any particular project that you find passion in, including our RSD International Awareness Quilt project. And then we also have on there our partnerships and our Youth in Pain project and other things that we have going on as well. So we have a lot of different things going on and things that people can choose from. So you said November, you said Nervember, that's with iPain, but November is CRPS RSD Awareness Month, and our color is orange. I don't know if you have time to tell the backstory on this, but is there anything else that you would want to add before we get going here? Well, the month of November, as I call it, I coined the phrase November. I like it, by the way. It's great. Thank you. I was on a plane, and everything was Pinktober, and I was like, we need something. And it was a 6-hour flight from Washington, D.C. to Arizona. And my husband came up with Painuary, and I was like, veto, no, we're not going with Painuary. So, and so I went with November, and I found out that there was a group that was trying to do Awareness Month in July, but I had never heard of it, and never knew to even get involved because I didn't see it out there. Once I created November in 2009, it's just grown and grown and grown, and last year we had over 47 million interactions on social media through all of our platforms that people were participating from all over the world. So it definitely has grown over the years, but I think that awareness has been something that's been around since probably the first soldier was diagnosed with causalgia by Dr. Weir back in the Civil War. As you said, I think that they've been trying to raise awareness. The first thing to catch on was November, and since then other projects and things have sprouted and grown, and it's really been a great experience to see it grow, and I mean, just beyond expectations that we've set. And each year we try to at least double what we've done the year before. So it really has been a special thing for us.
Well, Barbie, thank you so much for coming on Conspiracies Against Wellness, and thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing for the CRPS RSD community. And I look forward to working together with you and iPain Foundation in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You are welcome. And I do this because I'm a patient too. So thank you to everybody who's listening. Thanks for having me on, and I would be happy to come back anytime.
Awesome.
And I look forward to the next 3 interviews that you have going on RSD, tomorrow with Jasmine, and then next week Sherry and Dr. Getson.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, and I hope you have a great night. Enjoy your ketone grocery shopping.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. Tomorrow at 7 Central, Jasmine Fuller will be our guest. Tune in to learn more about the Italian neurodronic, I don't know if I said that right, I'm so sorry, infusions. She recently had to find out if this helped her with her RSD CRPS. Again, thank you so much for joining in tonight, and have a great night, Call Nation.
Listening to Conspiracies Against Wellness with Janelle Elgaway. Join us tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern to get in on the conversation. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host and callers, and not necessarily those of EXG LLC, its employees, or sponsors. I'm David Schiff.